Jamie,
Tom?
welcome to the Boardroom. Thanks for coming down to see us.
Thank you.
Like ships in the night nowadays, both flying around, different offices, etc., etc. But we've got the mortgage maestro in the house. So let's start with kind of what you've done so far and the journey here. So where did your career in finance start, Jay?
Yeah, so I've been a mortgage broker for sort of 10, 11 years now. Worked at a big corporate estate agent, sort of cut my teeth there.
Did.
That's it, yeah. I think a lot of us here have all come from a similar place. Mm-hmm. Did my time there, sort of did 7 years at the estate agency, really good place to sort of cut your teeth.
Yeah.
And then set up Strive about 3 years ago or so now.
Yeah, so what, 2022?
Around that time, yeah. Right. So started with me, just in my bedroom, sort of on the laptop. But last couple of years we've seen some real expansion. Yeah. Got a team of 4 now, and
crazy growth.
Yeah, really sort of embracing things and sort of pushing forward.
Because when we first connected, I mean, it must have been virtually as you set up, right? I mean, it was just you. We had a chat over what coffee it was, and sort of said, look, doing my own thing, whole of market, etc., etc. We really bought into, well, I guess you as a person, which we'll come on to, about how important that is with anything to do with business. And then as we've sort of grown as well, it's been a really interesting journey, hasn't it? We've sort of seen our businesses kind of go almost on a parallel tracks, haven't we? So what was it that kind of had the catalyst from you? Because you could have been doing it on your own, like a lot of brokers do. What motivated you to bring other people on board and kind of push it forward?
I think when you start out, or most people don't have a plan really, you just know that you want to be self-employed, you want to give it a crack, but I didn't really know where I was going to take things. Things went better than expected, ended up super busy, reached out to a load of estate agents, and you were one of the ones that sort of decided to work together. Then just naturally built up loads of business. I've been working alongside yourselves and sort of as a team.
2.5 years now.
That's it. So I think what we've been doing online, working alongside you guys, it's just naturally built up. So obviously we've been trying to grow the business, but equally it just naturally happens as well, where you do a good job for clients, and naturally the business will grow. So
but you take quite a different approach to, like, obviously I've been around now well over a decade in the business as well, and seen through corporate and independent, etc., lots of different ways of running, obviously agency, but also mortgage brokerages alongside us.
Yes.
And what I've sort of noticed with you, and correct me if I'm wrong, but that you take quite a different approach to kind of not just how you brand yourselves, but how you deliver the service and the product as well. So what kind of took you on that journey? Because, like you said, you were in your room and you were sort of 1 day a week in our office, and then all of a sudden you're doing SEO and you're doing lots of things. It's quite a modern way of doing it. What kind of influenced you with that?
I think the people you surround yourself with, really. So I think I guess there's lots of people that start the journey, they're self-employed and they're just happy to earn a good wage and to sort of gradually, organically grow. But I think if you surround yourselves by people that are doing similar things and looking to expand their businesses, I think that's really sort of opened my eyes as well. So I've been sort of focusing on businesses that have been doing bigger things, that have invested in SEO and online marketing, or work with estate agents as well. So I think it's just having the right mindset.
And your circle as well, I guess.
Absolutely, yeah. So the people you surround yourself with, I think, is massive. So even yourself, like I said, whilst you're not mortgage related, but it's just similar mindsets.
100%. So the biggest factors, I think, for growth in any business, they say, show me your friends, I'll show you, your future, etc.
100%.
And I think
couldn't be more true.
I've been massively influenced by, I'm very picky with who we work with, because obviously it's reputation and things like that.
Sure, yeah.
Of who, the people around us, and we just have these, like today, having a chat and, have you tried this and have you tried that? And although the businesses are different, actually all businesses are the same. We're either selling a service or a product.
That's how you market yourself.
That's how you market yourself, and then how you follow that up. They say back up the bullshit, don't they?
Yeah,
in terms of how you then deliver on what you've said you're going to do. I think that works really, really well, especially with an agency business and a financial service business, because we're all helping people get to the same goal.
Yeah.
Which is huge. It's absolutely huge. So how is the mortgage market at the moment? Obviously you've had an interesting 3-4 years, haven't you?
Well, that's it.
What a time to open.
Yeah. Certainly a baptism of fire, yeah. So I think I probably had started about a year or so before you had the Liz Trust mini budget, where sort of rates shot up to 6-7%. So yeah, it was certainly...
How did you find that? Was that a bit of a squeaky bum time, or
yes,
just kind of helping navigate people through that, rates changing all the time?
Yeah, I think having now been through a lot of shifts in the market, you sort of learn to weather the storm on them. But back then I was new to it, and it was doomsday, really, wasn't it? It was pretty awful. And
it was a tough period of time, yeah, looking back.
It was awful, yeah. But I think going through things like that now, if you do have quiet periods, you think you will weather the storm. The storm does always pass. But I think, that was sort of a particularly turbulent time. I think ever since then, the market's never really fully recovered. But it's in an okay state. I think interest rates aren't great. They're not 2020 levels. They're not post-mini budget levels where they were 6-7%. So I think people are managing and they're looking at the rates thinking it's not what it was, but we're cracking on and it's not a barrier to buy them.
I think that's what I found big time from, obviously the flip side of the coin, and it all obviously feeds back and forth between both businesses. But I found, 2023 was probably one of the hardest years of my career.
Sure.
And a real, as I'm sure you were, maturing as a business person as well. Because if everything bothered you to the nth degree, like it probably did when you started out, it certainly did when I started out.
Yeah.
It's the quickest way to an early grave. Just
sure.
kind of maturing and seeing the opportunities within those difficult periods. I'd then say 24 things sort of started to release, but it still felt very, very. Well, we had so many chats, didn't we? Of like, we're nearly there with this mortgage. Really, really sticky still. I don't know about you. I mean, I found that the very early days in the market. It's the end of January right now, but I've seen a real sort of pick up in energy, at least from activity in the market. Has the mortgage world been reflective of that?
Yeah, normally January takes a bit of time to get the ship off the mud. I think even in the sort of gap between Christmas and New Year, we were just getting tons of inquiries. We've been super busy. I'm conscious that some of it might be people expecting to buy before April, the stamp duty deadline.
Yeah.
So that's going to make a big impact for a lot of people. I'm hoping it's not, and I'm hoping it is just genuinely busy. But I guess the next couple of weeks we're going to find out, because people aren't going to be able to complete before January, before April, once we hit February. But either way, I'm not gonna not take it. It seems positive, and
no, I think so. I mean, I think the key there is managing expectation, isn't it? And I think. It's given a nice boost to the new year, having people that are wanting to get in by the end of March. But realistically, probably, certainly at this point, I'd say 85% of people won't make that.
No.
And even really, if you bought this side of Christmas, I think it's probably unlikely. So it's just factoring that into people's positionings, really. And I've seen a lot of properties coming to market now, and I actually think it might even open up even more. Obviously if it doesn't, we'll delete this. But open up even more after March as well, which is, I think, hopefully a good omen for the year. I mean, we've had 2.5 years of sort of pent up demand of people sort of putting it off. We had the election, we had the American election, we've had the budget, we've had all sorts, Christmas, and I think that's just sort of been, like you said, ship in the mud, stuck, and it feels like it's starting to push out now, which is really, really encouraging. So when it comes to Strive, and obviously other brokers, I think anyone listening is going to know that there's a lot of mortgage brokers, there's a lot of different types of broker. Kind of just explain to me and the viewers, maybe 3 reasons of what does make you different. I've obviously already touched on one in terms of how you do it, but what's kind of the reason why, for example, I work with you, and why a lot of people are attracted to your brokerage?
Yeah. I think we've come from, the vast majority of us have come from an estate agency background, so big corporate. Huge. And I think we've taken the good bits from that. So I think working in a estate agency in a big corporate environment, it's very sales driven, very regimented, and they get their pound of flesh while you're working there. And I think most people that leave that industry sort of think, I'm the weight's off my shoulders, I'm glad to get out of it. But you look back and you think, I'm glad I did it, because I've been trained right. You've got, you've just been drilled in the right way. Sounds a little bit wrong, but
but you are right. You're positioned in a position, whilst we probably both don't believe in the extent that it goes to. Knowing those fundamentals, knowing those basics, knowing how to communicate with people, it's invaluable. And I think if we both didn't have that background, we wouldn't be where we are today.
Exactly that. So I think fundamentally that's been a massive help to us. I think we're super personable, we're flexible, and we're very sort of tech savvy as well.
That's so important.
So I think, again, where I worked previously, great company, learnt a lot there, but they were a bit stuck in their ways, and then it was all face-to-face appointments. They didn't adopt Zoom or Google Meets calls, and I think it was just, you had to drive into town, go and park in Tesco's and pay for parking for a few hours.
Clunky.
and it was just it served its purpose. But I think sort of post COVID, the world moved on, so we're investing in technology. We've got some very for us, customer journeys is of utmost importance. We're trying to streamline everything. We're not trying to go completely tech. You know, people like
human interaction,
personable and human interaction, but we're trying to strike the perfect balance between making it easy for everyone, but also sort of being personable as well.
It's so important, isn't it? I think you touched on something really important there after COVID, how the world has changed. You know, people are working from home more, people are online more, and I think it's striking, like you just said, exact same with our business. You know, striking that balance of not being an online agent or not being an online broker, because then you take all of that personability away from the client, and I think people buy people, they really do buy into who you are and who I am as an individual, but also it's making life easier for them. You know,
for sure.
We live in a sort of instant gratification world where they don't want to wait for 5 days to come and sit in a stuffy office with you and to talk about the mortgage. If they do, they can.
Yeah, of
really
course.
important. But most people don't. They want a Zoom call at, unfortunately for you or for me, they want a Zoom call at 6 p.m. on a Thursday night, because that's when they're free. And I think the way that your brokerage specifically has adapted to that compared to a significant amount of the marketplace has obviously helped you grow so quickly, but also kind of put that marker in the sand for other people to aspire to. And you use social media quite heavily as well, don't you? Which is something I don't see often in either of our businesses.
No, for sure.
So what sort of effect have you seen the social media side of things taking place on?
So I've taken a bit of a back step for the last year or so where we've been growing the business, but the plan is to get back into it and get to the levels we were doing previously. But I think initially when you start up, for most people, they haven't had experience doing, they're not media trained or they haven't done those sorts of things. So it was a bit of a leap of faith to begin with to do it, and you're doing it thinking, what are people going to think? Are people going to be really negative towards it?
And the anxiety of the videos going out and things. I know that feeling.
That's it. And don't get me wrong, there still will be negative people about it, but I think I think just the response I got from doing it, from some what was fairly basic videos really, it was just stuff that to me is fairly basic, just saying you can borrow 4.5 to 5 times your income, it might cost you £1,000 a month if you borrow this amount, and all stuff that was in my mind really basic, but the response is back, people just going, Jamie, you know so much about mortgages, that was so helpful. And we were just getting, one, we're just educating people,
so important.
And two, it was just building brand awareness, and whether or not it was directly those people that you're seeing, but they were just sort of passing on the message to other people, going, have you seen that Jamie guy? He's got some good videos.
Isn't it?
Exactly that. So need to do more of it. When I did do it, when I did more of it rather, it was a game changer and really effective, as you said.
Well, I think it is. I think it's so easy to kind of feel like everyone knows everything when you've been in the business for over a decade. I've been in my business for over a decade. We do things on autopilot. We think, like you mentioned there, you can borrow up to 5 times your income. To you that's like, well, yeah, I do that every day. It's obvious. But I think what we don't realise, and certainly I did a podcast recently, and I was talking about sort of fairly basic things about how you market a property, what time you should go to launch, etc., etc. And of course, not everyone is in the business, otherwise we wouldn't have a job.
No,
So it's fascinating to sort of see the response from people, and actually you touched on something really important there, the education side, because people, if they're going to use you, they have to trust you first.
For sure.
And the only way you build trust is by making sure that you know your stuff and that you show that you know your stuff via education, essentially. Which I think for both our businesses has been really, really effective, and doing things like this as well is just sort of showing that real human side of it as well.
I think that's it, and something that I hadn't really thought of until I started doing it was, for me, if I needed a lawyer, for example, and I had to phone around hotshot London lawyers, it's quite an intimidating process, as in you're thinking, are they going to look down on me? Do I fit the mould for there? And I think people have that approach when they're phoning mortgage advisor, or some people at least anyway, if they're not financially savvy. Definitely. They might think, I've got to phone a financial advisor or a mortgage advisor, and you're just thinking it's some middle-aged stiff behind a desk, and it can be quite intimidating. Whereas if you've got someone online that's reasonably normal and friendly and personable, that's going, pick up the phone to us, again, it sounds obvious, but it's breaking down those barriers.
If you haven't moved in 15 years, and perhaps it's not everything I deal with, not everything you deal with, I'm sure is a happy story. There might be that there's difficulties and things like that. It must be incredibly scary, frankly, calling, oh well, actually I'm struggling on this, I need to downsize, and I need to look, and to a stranger, or like you say, stiff guy in a suit behind the desk, it's sort of, so some people can even be embarrassing. When actually that's totally the opposite of the service you provide. You're there to help people, right?
That's it.
And people understanding that and buying into that and feeling comfortable being, totally honest with their position. Because what you actually do, frankly, is it's quite invasive, really, isn't it? You've got to look at all of what's going on in their financial lives and then help build a picture from there. So, building that trust is clearly working very, very well for you.
For sure. And I guess for you guys, it's the same, isn't it? Estate agents unfortunately have a stigma. So I guess, everyone has in their view of what an estate agent looks like. Totally. And again, it's for you, it's just breaking down the barriers, isn't it? And saying, we're not your typical estate agent. And
100%. We're all normal people, the same as you've got your doctors, your delivery drivers, we all have something that we specialise in, but at the end of the day, everyone is a human. And I think it's how you approach those scenarios with knowledge and understanding that in any business is really what sets you apart more than anything. And it sounds so simple, doesn't it? But the amount of people that don't do it is, it's vast. It's probably 90%. For sure. So finally, Jay, obviously, we're looking ahead for 2025. The market's looking more stable than it was. If I was a sort of a first-time buyer, which I think there's going to be a lot of over the next 12 months, people that have kind of been waiting, what could I sort of look to expect on the horizon for the mortgage side in terms of, I know it's all subject to different things, kind of what would be my first steps? I've done an online calculator. I think my budget is 450. Yeah. I think from my, online calculator.
Good place to start.
Exactly. What would be my next steps?
Pick up the phone, whether or not you think you're ready to go, or you're at early stages. If you're, even if you haven't got a deposit yet, or you're working towards getting what you think you need to get one.
Planning.
Pick up the phone. Absolutely, pick up the phone. Give us or another broker a call, or ideally us, but
ideally, sell yourself, Jay.
Give us a call, and essentially, if you're ready, great. You want to get mortgage ready, get an agreement of principle, so that when you do find somewhere, you're ready to go. And if you're not ready, whether or not you're 6 months, a year, 2 years away, just getting a plan and saying you need to save this amount. But you'd be surprised the amount of people that are in a better position than they think. There's often a negativity around. I'm never going to be able to buy property. It was so much easier back in the day, sort of thing. And don't get me wrong, it probably was. Yeah. But in my view now, there's some really, there's probably a bit of a stretch. There's never been a better time. But some of the mortgage products out there now, you've got they're lending 5.5 times income. When I started 10 years ago, it was 4.5, 5 times income. So you can borrow significantly more than you could maybe throughout large parts of the last 10 years. Rates are okay, they're not fantastic, but I think there's some real positives there.
Yeah. And there's so many different sort of schemes and things available as well. And I know you specialise in a VAR, because there's lots of different types of mortgages, of course, as well. And you specialise in the vast majority of them, right? Being, I guess, whole of market, etc., etc.
Absolutely,
But I think that's such an important point again, because the amount of people that call me and they say, I want to go and see that house, and I go, fantastic. What have you done so far? In terms of your financial positioning, nothing. I just want to see the house. That's not a problem. It's not an issue. But for people that are thinking of, okay, I want to buy a house, or I want to sell and move, or I'm a first-time buyer looking to get on the ladder, I would actually say the very first port of call before even calling an agency is get your finance in place.
100%.
Or at least understand where you need to be, because that's so important.
You're better off investing half an hour of your time just to make sure there's no point in going viewing 10, 12 properties. And having your bubble burst later. So I think, spend half an hour on the phone with a broker, know where you stand moving forward, 100%. For sure.
And then obviously the killer question, which I always think is really interesting, I've had a few people say this to me as well. So obviously, what you're doing, we're doing it for ages, etc. I think a lot of people that may be put off by the fact that they think that coming to see you and just sit down is going to cost them £5,000 to sit in a broker. So they go, I'm going to go direct to the bank, or I'm going to try and do my own mortgage, which literally not possible anymore. So I guess that's the only final thing. To give away your fees and things. Am I right in saying that advice from you is free, right?
Absolutely, yeah. So you can jump on a call with us. There's no charge for that. You can have as many follow-up calls. There's no fee until you move forward with us. And even then, our fees are pretty reasonable, very competitive compared to anyone else in the market. But I think there should be no barrier to phoning up, booking in a call.
There really is no barrier, at the end of the day. If you're looking to move, you're looking to buy, looking to sell, if there's any kind of finance involved, having a free conversation with an independent broker that has access to the whole of the market is an absolute no-brainer, right?
It's an absolute no-brainer, yeah. So you can. I don't think I've ever done a mortgage appointment, whether or not the person uses me or not, where they don't take something away from it. Even if they're experienced or a novice, they'll take something away from it. So I think it's nothing ventured, nothing gained on it, really.
No. And the worst thing you come out with is either what you've got so far is great, or you can't move right now, or, you know, the best thing that comes out of it is actually your budget's gone up, you've saved this a month, you've got this rate. You know, there's so many detailed, interesting things that you get out of a brokerage appointment. And, you know, obviously you've done one for myself, and just comparing to other people I'd spoken to at the time, vastly different. So not so much of a sales pitch, but, you know, for me to put my name to something is quite a big thing, given what we do and the areas we do it in. And we're very glad it's been a very good nearly 3 years working alongside Strive, and hopefully, touch wood, many years
more,
to come. So,
I'm sure it will.
Jay, thanks for coming to the Boardroom.
No, thank you.
We'll catch up soon.
Brilliant.
Cheers,
Tom.
Tom here, and thank you so much for tuning in to the latest episode of The Boardroom. If you like what you heard, do like and subscribe to be kept up to date with the latest podcast that we'll be releasing. And if you'd like to join me in The Boardroom, I'd absolutely love to hear from you, and maybe I'll see you on the next one.